Welcome back, everybody. Today's the day. I'm finally gonna get this thing off the jack stands. Last week, I finished up the coilover install by getting the rears in. Just a couple of things I have to do today. I have to raise the rear coilovers up to the actual ride height. Last week when I sat it down, it was just sitting a little too low. So I'm gonna make that adjustment. Then I can get it on a level surface, take a look at it, make sure it's sitting the way I want. Then we can take this thing out, go for a drive, shake it down a little bit. So that's the plan. First things first, I want to just jump in, get those rears adjusted, and then get this thing on the ground. This week's video is brought to you by LCOBMW.com. Shop our site for Corvette performance parts, merchandise, and much more. See the link in the description or visit LCOBMW.com. So right now I'm raising the rear ride height. So I got it jacked up and I am underneath here. I'm turning the collars on the coilovers up. Now I have this pretty much at there's about 2 3/4 gap here. I'm gonna go match that on the other side, raise that side up too. But what I'm looking for is the center line of that bolt and the one up top to be 11 inch. That's how I kind of set up the suspension. So I'm trying to have this 11 inch ride height. So with the weight of the car on it, so I'm going to go adjust the other side and then I'll come back and check the measurement. All right, now I got them all at a little over 11 inch ride height here. So there's definitely a little bit more gap in the wheel well there. But the next thing I need to do is get this thing on the ground before I start dialing everything in. I just want to get that close enough there at its ride height. So now I'm going to get the front wheels on and get the thing on the ground, and then we'll take a better look. All right, so I got it on the ground here, just still sitting on some blocks just so I can get the jack underneath of it. So the rear is just sitting a little too low. I mean, it's not bad. I just want to come up just a little bit in the back there. The front's sitting pretty good. It's pretty low too. So I may come up with that too, but you know, I mainly want to get this rear up right now just so I don't have any vibration issues. So I'm going to work on that, and then we'll take it for a ride. Okay, so now this is where the fun begins. So when it was on the ground, I measured the ride height of the front and the rears. The ride height in the front is about a ½ inch lower than where I wanted it. So I'm gonna raise that up about a ½ inch. And then the rear is the same thing. It's about a ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch too low. I'm trying to get to 11 inches in the rear and about 9.5 to 10 inches with the 302s in the front. So that's my plan right now. I have it jacked back up. I'm gonna try to get to the front coilover collars since they're kind of right up top in the front without taking the front wheels off. The rear ones, I just took the wheels off. It's just easier to kind of sneak in there, and since nothing's torqued down yet, I can just kind of pop them on and off, and I may have to do this 2 or 3 times just to get it completely dialed in where I want it to be. So yeah, let's just get in here and start making some adjustments, raise it up a little bit, get it back down on a level surface, and then go from there. So I'm just gonna take a quick reference measurement here. I'm gonna just measure the threads. So it's about 1 3/4 inches, so I'm going to raise that up. I'll try maybe a ½ inch or something and see what that does. All right, so it's about 2 1/4 inches there, so now I'm going to go to the other side, set that up the same. Okay, raise this up. All right, now I'm on the front ones here. You may have to jack your suspension up just to kind of get to this. It's really tight with the upper control arm here, but where it's at now, it seems like it'll work. Might be here for a while, but get it. Just really tight in here. kind of going back and forth between the larger and the smaller coilover wrench just to get a good grip on everything as I'm lifting it up. So I raise it up, there's about like a 1/2 inch gap there with the threads, so I'll do that to the other side. So I just finished up adjusting everything, so I'm gonna put the wheels back on it, get it back down, and assess it from there. Okay, so we're getting there. The front looks pretty good. I might keep that for now. I still can go up, I think, another 1/4 inch or so. The rear is looking better. I still want to come up just a little bit. But that's what that looks like so far. So I think I'll just another 1/4 inch in the rear too. That should do it. All right, so I just got done raising the rear up. So I think this is gonna be it for now. So, I mean, you probably can't even tell on camera, but it did come up a little bit. I raised up that. So hopefully this should do it, but I'm gonna take it for a ride, make sure there's no issues. So I just got back from a quick drive up the street. I noticed a couple things right away. First thing was that I could tell that the rear half shafts and the springs were rubbing on each other. I looked underneath when I got back and there's just a mark around the half shaft where it was rubbing. That needs to be addressed. The other thing was the alignment was off. Go figure, right? So the way it was aligned originally was a lot higher ride height. Now that it's a lot lower, the wheels are more cambered in, the steering wheel's off, and I can actually feel like the rear toe's off. And looking at that left rear wheel, it looks like it's toed in a lot. So I'm gonna adjust that a little bit just to kind of get those, you know, to the best that I can here until I get it aligned. Other than that, I want to raise the rear up a little bit more. Adjust that. I may raise the front up just a little bit more too, because now it's kind of settled that I drove it. It is sitting a lot lower than anticipated, so I'm going to just raise it up a little bit. But you know, this is kind of what happens once you're, you know, tweaking your suspension and you're getting it to a totally different ride height from where it was before. So don't be discouraged. You're going to run into this kind of stuff. It's kind of like once you get it all set up, you'll be good to go. But until then, you know, you got to make these little tweaks. So I'm just going to jump into it right now and make these adjustments. So I just want to show you what I was talking about there. See that nice little engraved line there? That's just from the spring. Once it's all the way compressed up in there with the weight of the car in there, it's just rubbing on there like that. And the other side's the same thing. So I'm going to actually compress the suspension. Once I adjust the coilover up a little higher, I'm going to compress it all the way up and then check for clearance and see what I have to do if I have to turn the spring or anything like that. All right, so I just got done adjusting my coilovers. I ended up raising the rear up to 11 1/4 for the ride height and the fronts to 9 3/4. It can be anywhere from 9 1/2 to 10. So if you're doing the same setup, that's kind of what I have right now, the way the car's set up. So it's just a little bit higher. The other thing too is I just moved my springs around and I just double checked them again to make sure they weren't rubbing on the half shafts. Raising that also helps. The other thing was I just kind of just did a 4-wheel toe alignment here using 4 jack stands and some like string. I'll just give you a quick like walk around, show you what I did, but I basically struck a line from the corner of the tire to the rear corner of the tire, and I made sure the steering wheel was straight, and I did it on all 4 corners so they're parallel with each other, the strings, and I took measurements on either side of the rim, and I have them all set up so they're completely straight. And this will get you pretty close, you know, if you want to go on an alignment rack and have it done after this, but at least this will get you a little bit safer, because once you lower the car so much, everything like either toes in or toes out or whatever, and you really don't know where you're setting everything up. So at least this will get you kind of straight and get you kind of right in the zone for the most part. So I'll just do a quick walk over, show you what I did. So as you can see here, got a string, and I have it up against the tire there. Same thing, and I just finished this up, and I just adjusted the front tie rods and the rear ones, and same thing. So I got that all set up there, and I have them almost at like the center line of the wheel too, so like the height off the ground is about the same on each side as well. Okay, so it's been a couple days since I finished up the car. I was working on it all weekend. Just doing a bunch of little adjustments here and there. I ended up adjusting the rear camber. I put a digital angle finder on the back of it. It was like -5 degrees, so I adjusted that out. I ended up, you know, messing around with the toe a little bit in the front because the steering wheel was off. So I'm pretty sure I got all that dialed in now. I ended up doing, you know, one thing I said I wouldn't. I ended up lowering the rear down a little bit further, kind of pushing the limit there to see how low I could go before the half shafts vibrate. So I went down like a 1/4 inch adjustment on the rear of the coilovers, and it vibrated, so I had to put it back to where I have it set, which it is currently at that. Just a couple of things with the rear springs. I had to just kind of turn those because at one point they were rubbing on the half shafts, but that's all taken care of. So pretty much have it all set where I want it to be now. So I just need to give it one more drive around and make sure, you know, no rubbing, no, you know, vibration, all that good stuff is handled and taken care of. So behind me, it's kind of set at the stance that I want it. So we'll just do a quick walk around one more time, and then I'll go for one more drive. So I'll get some better shots once I actually have it outside and off of the blocks, but that's where the front sits. That's where the rear sits. So it looks pretty good, and I'm happy with it. So I'm out driving it. Feels pretty good so far. Doesn't seem like there's any vibration in the rear. I'm gonna just rip up the road here, try to get up to around like 50 or 60 and see what it feels like. So I just got back from the test drive. Everything went well. No rubbing, no noises, no vibration. The car handles well, and the stance I think looks really good. So I am happy with the way that turned out, even though it took, you know, hours of setting up and adjusting and just kind of tweaking it just to get it right. And I have to say too, my alignment actually works out really good. The car tracks really well. I will have it, you know, sent to alignment rack eventually when I get some free time. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Thanks for watching.